Sounds right.
Welcome to the Clinical Cookout. You got your aunties here serving you the main dish and the hot sauce topics. Be sure to read our disclaimer.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. We are qualified clinicians who will cover various topics on mental health and will sometimes provide community resources. We are not being paid by any organization for our content, and any information we provide is general and pertains to our own personal experiences. We do not, I repeat, we do not provide psychotherapy, diagnoses, or treatment recommendations on air. Any concerns related to your individual mental health should be directed to your medical and mental health professionals. We are not responsible for others' decisions or the subsequent consequences.
So, now that we got all that out the way, let's start this pot with some hot sauce.
So y'all know I love TikTok. I find a lot of information on TikTok from all different types of people. And I ran across a video that talked about having several baby mothers versus several baby fathers. And the example that was brought up was Future and how he had 8 baby moms and and versus women. This guy's compared the women in his community, and that every time he comes across a woman, that he comes across a woman with multiple kids, and he was like, why do I have to pay the price for something you gave up for free? And he thought that women are making terrible decisions by being like an 8th baby mom, instead of looking at it the other way around, with let's just say she only has one baby father versus his 8 baby mom. So when the girl that he was talking to on the podcast said, well, he said, who's at fault? And she said both of them. And he said, no, the woman's at fault because she chose to have basically be Future's 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th baby mom. So I thought that was an interesting topic to talk about. So I want to know what you guys think.
The math ain't mathing is what I think.
It's never mathing, but he said, and there were a bunch of men, just to put that out there was a bunch of men who were agreeing that women never take accountability, and that it was worse that they had a baby with Future versus him having 8 baby moms.
So he don't have to take accountability for having 8 baby moms? Like he has no accountability here at all.
I say,
according to that guy.
Okay. If everybody takes accountability for themselves, including Future, if Future would have came my way, not saying he would have, but if he would have ever came my way and I was somebody that he wanted to choose, the minute I was like, well, okay, you got kids? And he was like, yeah, I got 8 or however many, 12, whatever.
I know.
And I was like, oh, okay. Well, how many, you was married? Because that's my next question, right? My follow-up is, were you married? And then he's like, nah, I got, no. And I'm going to be like, well, how many baby mamas you got? How many baby mamas he got?
8.
So the minute he would have said, I got 8 baby mamas, it's ding ding. Like there's nothing we should be talking about. First of all, you a serial baby mama maker. That's number 1. Number 2, why you in so many, everybody gets no condom. Everybody gets loose booty. Nobody is special. And then yeah, no, I wouldn't have been looking that way either. So some of the responsibility is on the woman that was like, ooh, Future, I think I should be number 6, number 7, number 8. We do got to take some kind of responsibility for that.
I wholeheartedly agree. Accountability is absolutely necessary for the women for all the women after, I would say, baby mama number 2. Because I can see how somebody could have 2 baby mamas. I could see that. But you get to 3, 4, 5. I'm not about to be number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's not to say anything negative against those women, because I personally think men like Future in particular, it is something about them that draws women in. It is. It's just something. Yeah. So you can't say, oh, she was just pure stupid. I mean, he probably super charming. I mean, those be the types. Fuck boys be the types that be real charming and can draw you in. So I won't put it all on them, but still, once you hear, like, what goes through your mind once you hear, oh, I got 8 baby mamas? Like, what's the first thought that mentally goes through your mind as a woman? For me, it's like what you said, Auntie Suge. Oh, okay, no, because I'm not even thinking about being a baby mama. I'm more like, you went up in all 8 of them raw. I'm not about
That's
to be clap messing around with you with the clap and BD and everything else. No, sir. Being passed around monkeypox and everything. No, we're not doing that. So that's my, like, I don't want to catch nothing. And that's not to put a stigma on having any type of STD because it's stigmatized enough, but you have to think these things. Like when somebody says that, what do you think?
You didn't even have to disclaim not wanting no STD. No, I don't want it. It's okay.
Right. Like, I don't.
So, yeah, I think I'm looking at it from a different perspective than y'all are, because I'm looking at it from the perspective of like how people develop interpersonal styles, attachment styles, like the way that they relate to people and connect to people. And that's developed earlier on, like in your childhood. It's modeled by your parents or your caregivers. Then it's modeled by your peers. And that's how you learn to interact with people and relate to people. So when I'm looking at Future's situation, him having 8 baby mamas, I'm wondering if there's somebody in his life who had 8 baby mamas that he, not 8, but had multiple baby mamas that he idolized and felt like this person got it together, like I want to be like him. And then naturally, maybe not intentionally, but naturally, he repeats that behavior and is trying to be like whoever that person was. And then from the woman's perspective, okay, yeah, he got 8 baby mamas, but he dope. He got money. He, and my mom always said I need to give me a man that can take care of me, that can make sure I don't ever want or need for nothing. So 8 baby mamas or not, that's what I was told by my mom. So I'm going with it. So for me, I don't know. I'm not seeing like fault here for the person, because I'm looking at like how your history and your childhood and all of that can influence the decisions that you make now.
True. That was so professionally
beautiful.
put.
I'm sorry.
Well put. That put the mental health perspective right in the forefront. Wonderful job, Auntie.
But what about borderline?
Yeah.
Oh my God,
fuck them.
borderline.
Also, you see in patterns where you're a serial dater, you're a serial slipper-upper. You can't be with one person, and then whenever you leave that person is the villain. And it's never nothing that you did. And so then you move on to the next relationship and then the next relationship. And then you're leaving a whole serial of babies with different women that are all going to have interpersonal relationship problems later on.
Yeah, but would you blame that on Future? Would you blame that, not Future, but would you blame that on the man if he was doing that and not intentionally? This is like his pattern of behavior that he's developed over the year. If ain't nobody ever told him, like, this ain't
He's
cool.
not self-aware. He's not cognizant of the problem.
Yeah.
I think it's more his ego, to be totally honest. I think he is aware. I just think men are mostly ego-driven, and he can pull whatever chick he wants to. And if they choose to have, it is, I mean, you learn back in like middle school about health and protection and safety and having kids. Like, you learn all that stuff back when you were in high school. What he chooses to do after that, I mean, I feel like that's a conscious decision he made. Like, but I also believe that that's a conscious decision the woman made as well. But I don't think it should be more blame on one versus more blame on the other. Like in that TikTok, they were trying to blame it mostly on the woman at being at fault. No, like, 2 people make a baby, and he is just as responsible for making that child just as she is. At least that's how I personally see it. Now, I do agree that with Amber, there may be some interpersonal attachment things going on. I definitely probably agree with that. I mean, if we're all humans, all that is always going to be considered. But I always think that I feel like women have to take most of the blame, because holding a man accountable is just hard for other men to do. I don't know why. I don't ever see it happen a lot. And when we do hold men accountable, all I see is men saying, "Oh, you're simping. You're pandering to women." The moment men get held accountable for their irresponsibility.
Yeah.
Black women aren't going around here making broken homes on their own. They're
Exactly.
just not.
And then that's, I'm so glad you said that, Auntie Keish, because that is something that blows my mind too. Men will, I will hear men complain about a woman who has multiple children or multiple baby fathers, and then they literally actively participate in creating that same dynamic. So you complain about it. You don't want a woman with multiple baby fathers, but you then make a woman, that very woman you don't want, or you come from a woman that is that same woman. Your mama had multiple baby fathers. So you're disparaging these women as if there's something flawed when you're a part of you're flawed too. You're a part of the flaw. It doesn't make sense. Right. And men struggle to hold one another accountable. But then too, they believe women struggle to hold one another accountable. They believe everybody struggles to hold
themselves and other people accountable. Because if we think about it, men and women are leaving a trail of kids with different baby fathers and growing up in different households. And there's a lot of problems that come with having multiple sets of parents. And there's nothing wrong with, everybody can't make everything work. And so sometimes you're going to have situations where there's multiple sets of parents. But when you're leaving behind a whole bunch of children, 4 or 5 baby fathers, the dynamics do change. Some people think, well, that child is loved more than me. And then that creates some issues within themselves. And then they think, that my father, left me and had another family with this person, when in reality, the relationship with their mother just didn't work. And so you have those dynamics, but at the same time, I think being cognizant and holding yourself accountable will stop some of this and stop the breakdown of the Black family structure.
Well, it depends. I mean, because you got, now Future was one example, but then we have a whole nother example in Nick Cannon, who is purposely doing this.
Don't get started on Nick Cannon, please, boys.
Please don't get
Nick the Dick Cannon. All right, so
Nick Cannon,
but he's purposely doing it. But there is so much that can be tied to mental health with Nick Cannon's choice, because he has said in so many words, Nick Cannon has lupus. So he has a medical issue that he lives with, and he wants to leave a legacy. But in leaving your legacy, in the selfishness of that, I want to leave a legacy, you are also creating all of these different family dynamics and all of these issues. And a lot of people will argue, well, his kids won't have issues because he's rich and he can get to them whenever he needs to. Getting to them whenever you need to doesn't mean that you're there when they need you. Having the money doesn't mean that you are an active parent. It means that you can pay bills. That's not the same thing.
Right. And it's impossible to be there for... I'm sorry, go ahead, Keish. You know how to talk all day about this.
No, I was just going to say, I think that this is where people... I'm going to assume mostly men don't understand that there's an emotional component that children need in order to develop appropriately and healthy. And so you can have all the money in the world. If you are not emotionally available for your children, it opens up a whole nother can of worms. Yeah, you can pay for them to do stuff, but there's a whole nother component to raising children. And that, again, is pushed on women to do. And I've seen a whole bunch of comments that talk about, well, just like Auntie Ashley said, oh, well, he has money. He can have money. But if your father is not emotionally available, then how are you raising a... developmentally
how do we know
child?
He's not emotionally available? You don't have to be physically present to be emotionally available.
You're right. I'm not asking about physically present. I'm just saying emotionally available. Everybody is throwing out financial, but nobody is talking about the emotional development of a child. Nobody talks about that. Everybody's only throwing out financial. And so I just believe you have to be able to have that component too. I hope he's doing that. I pray he's doing that, but I don't know. That's just people just throwing financial.
Well, also, you get emotionally unintelligent women that these men have babies with. You get emotionally unintelligent women that say, you know what, if he's not going to be with me, then I don't want my kids with those other kids. Or, siblings don't get to meet their other siblings because the woman is mad. Oh, he wasn't with me. I'm not about to have him around all them other kids. He's not going to be calling somebody mommy. He's not going to bring my kids McDonald's. Oh, he's not going to be allowed to be around them kids. And so when you have the dynamic of multiples, you start bringing in multiple personalities. And then when you do that and you have these multiple children, these children are learning to develop interpersonally, like Amber said, from their parents. And so if you are out there and you're not emotionally available, but you're financially available, then you might as well not even be available, because finances is not all it takes to make a baby. And it's not all it takes to raise an emotionally intelligent human being. And so when you get kids that are left with the mothers by themselves and the moms may have some issues, or the fathers may have some issues, or the parents have issues and they can't effectively co-parent, you messing people up.
Well, is there an undertone here that I'm misreading that's saying
because
that?
I think what Amber is saying is.
Wait, hold on. She didn't get to finish.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, because I think what she was saying was, do you have to physically be there to be emotionally available? Like, because we saying Nick can't physically be in all of these places at one time, but does he have to be? Can he be emotionally available to these kids without physically being there?
Yes, depending on the age of the kids. Because if you got a 2-year-old, they on the phone. They don't want to talk on the phone. They don't want to see you on FaceTime. They're on FaceTime and then they want to go watch Cocomelon. So they're not able to feel you holding them, you hugging them, you kissing them, loving on them, being there. They're not able to see a relationship or like effective relationship parenting with the mother. Like there's a lot of things missing in that dynamic.
Right.
And that's not to say I'm not demonizing anybody, because guess what? There's a lot of us, and I'm of one of the baby mothers from my father. And he knows this, so what's understood don't need to be explained.
Well,
but
hey, Keisha. Oh,
but you know what? That was on point right there, because I come from one of those families, and there are issues. It's not all peaches and cream.
Yeah.
Also, what I was gonna say too is that, like, I'm feeling like there's, and I could be misreading what's happening here, but I feel like there's this undertone that children cannot be healthy emotionally in a single parent home. Like, even if their father is there financially and the mom is there emotionally, like, are we saying that child can't develop?
Oh, absolutely
in a
not.
Way with just that one parent?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear, because I was getting, like, as y'all were talking, I was getting that feeling. It was making me uncomfortable, because I'm like, kids can grow up healthy with one parent.
Oh.
Yes, I do. Society have to, but you can. So that's what I'm saying, is that he can be emotionally present every now and then. I mean, you don't want, if you have multiple kids, you don't want to be just like in and out whenever, where you're in sometimes and then you're on and you don't see that or talk to that kid for months at a time, and then, oh, Daddy's here, pops up, because then that causes issues later. But if he's talking to them on a regular and mom is providing most of that emotional support, I don't see anything wrong with that.
I've seen it done successfully.
Yeah.
I see it done successfully, but that's for fathers who are actually, like you say, emotionally present with the mother. They do effective co-parenting. What we were talking about was people who don't effectively co-parent, because in those dynamics, somebody out of 1 of 8, somebody ain't gonna be effectively co-parenting.
Right. And I'm an example. Like, I was raised in a single parent home. My mother was the one who provided that emotional a part of things, that attachment that I needed. And I had she had a whole tribe. Back then it takes a village. So I had my grandmother, my uncles, I had a lot of people to pour into me. So it can be successful. But even with that, there has always been a void, because my father wasn't there as much. So you can't, I don't care how good the situation looks and how well that child turns out, something will be missing if they know that their father was not always present and wasn't there for all the important things. And that's not to say that every parent can always be there either, but when you missing out on
or a mother,
like I literally remember the one dance recital my dad showed up to, because that's the one he showed up to. So that's the one that I hold in my memories. So you're still, you can have success just like you can raise a child horribly in a 2-parent home. It's 2-parent homes that are toxic and detrimental to kids. So for people who say, you married, then it's a good and all, it's some 2-parent homes that don't need to be 2-parent homes. They need to co-parent and separate. But it can happen, but we're just saying, if we go based off of what typically happens, especially with this conversation that Keish pulled from TikTok, this alone is detrimental to those kids. Some of Future's kids are old enough to know what's going on and to hear things on social media. So this is detrimental for them to hear. What would it be like for that child of one of those 8 baby mamas to hear, oh, your mama was the irresponsible one, but your dad did, like, that was cool. He was cool. It ain't his fault. Blame your mother. You are setting people up for mental problems.
I get what you're saying, and I partially agree, but I also partially disagree. because I feel like a lot of the time we make this assumption that kids are going to respond to something a certain way because of how we view things, and we think, oh, if this kid hears this about their dad or their mom, oh my gosh, they're going to be so sad. But we're not looking at the individual differences for people too. So yeah, Ashley, you might have always had that void and like wanted your dad to be there, or at least wanted him to be there for the important things and wondering why he wasn't there. But then you have another kid or an adult who was just like, so what? It doesn't matter to me. That's the individual differences. So it's not, so Future's kids, they're not, every single one of them are not going to have a negative experience with hearing these things about their dad or their mom. Maybe one out of the bunch or two out of the bunch, but it's not going to be every kid. It's just, it's the generalizations for me that like there will always be this, or every kid is going to respond to this thing this way, and that's not what happened.
That's true. And you know what you're talking about, Amber? You're talking about people who do it very well. People who do co-parenting, or they just raise their child very well, because I've also seen some situations where the parents splitting up, they were better parents because, okay, if I'm not with your mom, I have to spend 100% of my time with you instead of me being in the house with you and your mom being in the other room and I'm just on my computer or I'm doing something else and your mom is taking up most of the slack. So sometimes when parents split, then mom or dad is 100%, they got to be in it. And I've heard from a man that made him a better parent, is because he had to be more accountable and he had to be more physically present and more and there. And so I don't only blame the man. Whenever I say something, it's always enough to go around.
Okay.
I tend to see it as just if we want to tie it also back to the video and look at Black families in particular, I tend to look at where our children are and how they suffer and what those numbers say. I tend to look at who's taking on more of the weight, who has always taken on more of the weight, and apply it from there. And from what I see from these conversations coming from Black individuals, man or woman or whoever, however they identify, our children are being left behind. Our children are being the ones that are being out there having to figure out their life traumas because we couldn't, as adults, hold ourselves accountable. And so if we're going to be, in my opinion, equal and looking at who's to blame, it needs to be both.
Yeah.
Period. Stop going out there making children you can't take care of. Emotionally, financially, spiritually, whatever. Mentally. If you cannot take care of these children, please be responsible. I'm not saying you can't have sex. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is just be responsible. Just think about those children that are coming into the world. If y'all can't work out, okay, yes, we know things don't work out. But I don't think that the blame should be, oh, well, the mom should only take the, if she's there, she should take all the emotional. No, absolutely not. And that's just personally me. I don't give men the benefit of the doubt at all. If you made this child, you need to be 100% in with me on this child. We don't have to be together, but you need to put in efforts with this child that you made, period. That's just how
unless
I
agree. Be toxic. Unless it can be toxic. Unless it's toxic for him to be around. Yeah. Then it's like, I don't even want you to be here. I got this. My kid gonna be good.
Or toxic for the mother to be around too, because I think we'd be like, oh, mother. But I know some single fathers, and I know some fathers who hit so hard that I don't care how many baby mamas they got, they killing the game. I know
fathers. Whoop, whoop.
Yep. And I'm talking about single Black fathers.
Yep.
I know personally some of them who is like, don't worry about it, I got it. Because guess what? They might have found a raggedy woman in the mix and they're going to raise them kids themselves. And so, I mean, it's not necessarily always on the father.
It's not. Just like not every mother is just mother of the year. You have some toxic mothers out here. That's all to it. We don't like to acknowledge that because Black women already get so much thrown at us. But at the end of the day, if we're going to talk about accountability, it's some mothers out here who, especially mother-daughter relationships, I have worked with Black clients in particular, and that mother-daughter dynamic is something else in certain situations. So you have some toxic mothers out here and mother-son. You got some mamas who think they man, and when they son get a woman, it's a whole issue. She can't even connect with that woman.
And out of this conversation, I swear we could probably pick like 4 or 5 different topics to make a whole segment. I mean, like a whole main dish out of. But we're gonna go ahead and get into our main dish because that was our hot sauce. I feel like the viewers are gonna have a lot to say about that because I can't wait to see what they got to say because
they're gonna eat me.
Some of us don't agree with certain things. Each of us said we gonna have some people who disagree. That such is life. You don't have to agree with any of us. You got your own opinion. We have ours, but at the end,
I want to hear it. Let's hear it.
I want to hear what people got to say.
All right, let's go ahead and hop into the main dish for today.
All right. So let's talk about code switching. We wanted to switch it up and talk about code switching. See what I did there? So code switching, here's the definition. Code switching is the way in which a member of an underrepresented group, consciously or unconsciously, adjusts their language, syntax, grammatical structure, behavior, and appearance to fit into the dominant culture. So when we talk about code switching, and we're talking about African Americans, we're talking about adjusting everything about us to fit into the white culture. We know that we code switch in the workplace. We code switch when we go outside. We code switch when we talk to people in the grocery store. And a lot of that comes from our culture is different. Our culture is not one way. You know, we are in the American culture, but we're also the African American culture. We're a very unique culture. But when it comes to code switching, we can't always represent ourselves everywhere we go, because whenever we do represent ourselves, we are known as ghetto or just undesirable, hood, ratchet, or white or unprofessional. And one of the biggest things that I deal with in code switching is Superwoman Syndrome. So, as usual, always got on the Black Pride shirt, that we can do it. And the Superwoman Syndrome in the Black community is really big because we don't have time to be sick. We don't have time to not function. I can't say I can't get this paper done because I was sick. I can't say, I can't take care of my kids because I'm sick. Because guess what? Whenever it's time to perform, we got to perform. And that's code switching. So I go from being my regular self, who I might have anxiety, I might have depression, I might want to sleep all day, I might want to take a long nap, I might want to do all these things. But guess what? Stuff got to get done on the other end. So I don't have that luxury. So all of a sudden, I go from being regular me, who want to chill, who might want to watch some TV, to being this person that's got to get up, put on my cape, and be everything. And that's for other people to appreciate me.
Ooh. Code switching. I struggle so much with this particular topic because I absolutely hate it. I really want us to be able to show up as our full self at all times. So with most people attribute code switching to just the way we talk. Like they'll say, I'll never forget, somebody said, well, when I can tell who you're talking to by the voice you put on when you pick up the phone. Put on your white voice, I know it must be important. And if you talk regular, it's either family, friends, or somebody else. And I'm just like, it unconsciously happens. Yeah, everybody goes, hi, how are you? Everybody.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hi, this is Ashley speaking. When normally if it's one of y'all, I'm like, hello. It's so unconscious at this point that we have to consciously work to not do it. Like, I find that in a lot of scenarios, I have to consciously work to actually not code switch, which sucks because that means I have to consciously work to be who I actually am.
Mm-hmm. No. Constantly work to not be who you are.
No, I mean, I'm trying to work against code switching so I can stop doing it and just show up as who I am, and no matter what the scenario. But if I walk into a space where I feel like, oh, this is a fancier space, or this is a business type space, let me act right. In order for me to be who I am, I have to actually consciously say, don't do that. Just talk. Just be yourself. Don't put on no voice. Don't do anything extra. Just be you. I have to tell myself to do that because unconsciously I'm going to go in there. Hi, how are you? And I don't want to keep doing that. It's one of the main reasons I'm glad I got my private practice now, because I don't have to. I don't have to be in a space with people where I have to do that.
Well, you already know. My superpower is being me. My hair is big today because I'm showing up as me today. Okay. So when I think about code switching, I always think about centering whiteness. Like, I realize that that is what code switching is, centering other people, centering the majority. And so what I've learned over time is that I'm not centering you anymore. I'm just going to show up just how I am. And, y'all know my phrase, what's understood don't need to be explained. My resume speaks for itself. So when I show up and talk the way I talk, I want you to believe that I'm hood and ghetto. Because when you find out my accomplishments, that I'm a published author, got my doctorate, work in my community, and do what I'm supposed to be doing, then that conversation switches up very quickly. So when it comes to code switching, I don't do that anymore. You get what you get. And then I will make the choice whether I want you to continue to be in my life, whether personally or professionally. Because what I'm finding out is that a lot of people will treat you based on the way you speak to them sometimes. And so if you are going to treat me that way and you don't know anything else that I've done, then we don't have anything else to talk about. And then they sit over there dumbfounded because they're like, oh, well, I didn't know you went to Case Western, which is the top 9 school in the country for social work. I didn't know you had your doctorate. I didn't know you were doing this. Well, you ain't got to know now. You ain't got to know now. So for me, I don't deal with code switching. I just show up as myself. But I won't lie. It took me a long time to get there.
I was just about to say.
This isn't. Yeah. This is.
Which means that at some point you had to do it. But you know what? Where you are in your life right now, you've built yourself up to where you don't have to do it if you don't
you
want
can afford to not do it.
But some people don't have that luxury. Like, they have to. They have to code switch.
Absolutely.
They have to. Or else, like, they're going to go to work and they're going to be looked at as this ghetto or whatever person. And, like, no, you can't work here anymore because the customers don't like you. The customers aren't responding to you. This isn't okay. Or they go to school and the teachers are like, you're not getting along well with your peers. Like, you need to straighten up. You need to behave a different way. Or you're not going to be able to be in this class. We're going to put you in a class with whatever other kids. So it's just, like, some people have to, and that takes a toll on your mental health. But it would be interesting to know, like, what you did. I mean, not right now, but later on, like, how you got to that point. And maybe we could
someone
that. Go ahead. Another time.
Yeah. Well, someone did make, I think it was a white person who asked, what does code switching basically mean? And why do Black people have to do that? And someone broke that down to them and said, code switching for y'all is to thrive. Code switching for us is to survive. And I thought about it like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that person ended up understanding why we have to code switch. It's for a survival technique. We could even argue a trauma response, to be honest, but it's a survival technique for us. So I thought that was explained very well in that context that he was asking.
We absolutely have a level of privilege if we don't have to code switch. There's a level of privilege to that. But Auntie Amber, you just made me have a question, actually. You made me think of something as you were speaking. Because you were saying, in certain spaces they'll tell you you better straighten up and behave and act right. And why would the way we naturally are always be equated to negative behaviors? Like, just because I speak in my regular, hey, yo, what up? Just because I talk, that doesn't mean I'm acting. My behaviors aren't necessarily negative or bad. I'm just speaking the way that feels more comfortable to me. That's more of who I am in this space. I'm not coming in there with the, hi, how are you? It's more, what's up? How y'all doing? Like, that has nothing to do with behavior. So why do we automatically equate the way some Black people naturally are with negative connotation and bad behavior?
It's society. I mean, it's just like the way our hair grows out of our head in some places is unacceptable. Like, it needs to be straight and it needs to be this, that, and the other. Our hair grows out big and poofy, and that's ugly. That's not okay. That's negative. So it goes back to our behavior as well, and the way that we relate to people.
Okay, sure.
Comfortable in our own spaces because we're accepted as we are in those spaces. Who wants to go to work and just feel super uncomfortable the whole time? Like, you feel like nobody likes you, nobody wants to talk to you, everybody's looking at you thinking, because you got your resting bitch face on, that, like, we can't talk to her, we can't, like, joke around with her or anything like that. That's just, like, and that's why we've come to the point where code switching is even a thing. Because who wants to be at work feeling like that? Who wants to be out in public feeling like that? It's not a good feeling, and it really makes you feel like, okay, me as I am, I'm not good enough. I've got to be somebody else to be better. Like it's like that's just yeah. Until you come into your.
I can remember being in graduate school, and Amber and Keisha, I'm sure y'all remember this, or maybe I know Keisha does. We talked about it, but and being told I had RBF, and RBF is resting bitch face, and we don't know how to approach you, or you want to be alone, and you want to you don't want to intermingle, and it wasn't even that I wanted to intermingle; is that code switching is exhausting. And so when you go into a space and you are the only person that look like you, or there's a few others that look like you, but you're tired and you just want to be yourself, but it's like you got RBF. Okay, so now I gotta let me make sure my face is let me make sure my muscles and stuff in my face, let me make sure that they look right so that this person doesn't feel uncomfortable or think I have an attitude, because Black women are always getting told that we have an attitude, and it literally gives me anxiety to it gave me anxiety in school. I had so much anxiety, like, oh my God, what are they going to think about me? I had anxiety over the thought of negative evaluation. I wanted to be alone because then socially I don't have to interact and not be myself, or otherwise they're going to say, oh man, she got an attitude, look at her face. But then at the same time, with me not wanting to interact and me wanting to be by myself so that I don't have to put on this big persona, now I have an attitude and I'm standoffish, and people are annoyed with me and they're mad because I'm not in their face 24/7. And so that was anxiety producing, because like, okay, like Ashley said, you're too much and not enough at the same damn time. That's how I felt. And after a while, doing that for long periods of time, that's depressing. That is depressing. Yeah. And that's why some people go into their house when they get off work and they don't talk to people. They turn off their phone. They just want to sit down and watch TV all day. That is another sign of depression and a lot of social anxiety.
And you know what else? So yours got exhibited for you with code switching. It's exhausting, like you said. So for you, it gets exhibited with the anxiety that built up and the depression after the fact and things like that. For me, it showed up in perfectionism, especially when it came to school. I was always the one, even though my mom didn't put that on me. Like, my mom wasn't that parent that's like, you got to get an A. But for me, it was like, I have to get the best possible. I have to get the best grades. I have to do the best. I have to show up the best, because because that's the way that's going to give me the space to continue to show up more and more as myself. Like, I mean, like, if I have the best grades, then I can show up as myself, because my grades show up for me. They come into play. So, and that was all the way through grad school for me. Like, people when I was in grad school was like, girl, just pass the class. And I'm like, nope, I got to get an A. I cannot. I got an A minus and was flipping out. Like, that for me is anxiety inducing. And I fall into that perfectionism, because in order for me to feel like I don't have to code switch as much, my accomplishments have to speak for me.
Yeah.
And so that's the problem.
And that's me too.
My accomplishments have to speak for me. Yeah. So, and I mean, if y'all saw first episode, under this thing is some pink hair. My hair done been blue, red. When I started dyeing my hair, everybody, I swear, everybody was like, well, how is that going to fit into you being a professional? And I'm like, what does the color of my hair have to do with anything at all?
That's true. Right.
I refuse to dye my hair a regular color now. It probably never will. I'm going back to blue in a minute. It probably never will be. And even wearing this, people will ask, well, they oftentimes people think, like, is that a religious thing? No, I just like to wear my hair wrapped. Dang.
Right. I would have to say, I agree, actually. That was me. Like, I know, like, growing up in track and field, like, there was a lot of white families that I was around. So I got to see the way they lived, and then studied it, and then figured out how to navigate the white world. So there were things that I had to do that I may not have wanted to do, or that my family couldn't figure out how to do because they just wasn't exposed to it. But I knew the guy that I'm really close to, he said, you're going to have to walk the walk and talk the talk, Keisha. And he's a white guy. So I knew from that moment on, there were certain things that I had to do in order to make it in that world. Now that I got there, now I'm like, okay, how do I bring my people in and make this a place where they can be accepted too by being themselves? I took the sacrifice so that way they could come and be themselves, and then change these policies and procedures around to bring these people who look like me forward without them having to code switch, because I had to. So I would say the perfectionism is like seriously all me. And if I don't get it right, I feel so bad and I feel like I'm letting everybody down, even though that's not even true.
That's anxiety.
That's not true at all. Right. It's that anxiety that I fear that I'm going to fail and they're going to look at me like I'm the bad guy, or I'm the representation of the black person they let in, and look at you, now you don't fail. This is why we don't let y'all in it. You know what I mean? So all that go through my head. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's not even true.
Code switching for me showed up more as like my insecurities and flaws about myself. So like I had the best of both worlds, right? I grew up in Charlotte. I went to Garinger High School. G Code, what's up?
Really?
So yes, I did.
But
Garinger was a predominantly black high school, and what some people would say, in the hood a little bit, So I had to survive in that. Like, and I have always talked a little more proper, so that white voice we talk about, I've always had that, but my articulation is sometimes like less than what the white voice is. So I've struggled between all of this, and it's like, I'm flawed. I'm flawed because I can't speak white enough, right? And then I'm also flawed because I can't speak black enough. So I don't really know how to switch in certain environments because I don't fit into either one of them. Like, I can't do it. So when I was in high school, it was like, okay, I fit in because, I'm this pretty light-skinned girl. We talked about colorism a little bit, right? Then I went to college, a PWI, predominantly white institution, which was UNC Chapel Hill. And I didn't fit in there as like white enough, right? I remember specifically, oh my gosh, there was this group project we had. And I was so anxious about speaking up because it was obviously a group of white people. It was like 2 white guys, a white girl, and me. And they were all brainstorming about this thing. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to speak up. And when I did speak up, I didn't know, I don't know how it came out, but they looked at me like, why are you talking like that? And I'm like, wait, how am I talking? Am I talking black or am I talking white? Like, which one? Which one is not okay? I don't really know. So it's that, like, for me, it's like, I felt for so long that something was like not okay with me. And like, why is it that I can't code switch? Like, I don't know how to do it. Then I figured it out for a little while.
But the words talking black or talking white, that irritates and it grates in my soul.
That irritates.
Yeah.
I don't agree with it either, but I'm using those
Yeah.
terms.
But when you use those terms,
yeah,
you got them from people, and they're like, "Why are you talking white?" And it's like, so it's automatically assumed that white people are right. White ain't always right, and then it's at the same time like, okay, why is talking black such a stain? Meanwhile, you got people who are going, all of a sudden everybody got a code switch. All of a sudden everybody wants to speak slang and everybody wants to speak Ebonics. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, it was looked down upon. So here we are trying to code switch so that we can get a piece of the pie. And all of a sudden the people who don't have the code switch and the people who had the pie are trying to speak like us.
But that's a part of the privilege, Suge. That's a part of the privilege they have because they can jump over and do that. But when the time gets down to the nitty gritty, they know how to separate themselves and go right back to what they was normally doing and disassociate themselves. People talk about that like when it comes to like the music industry, about how a lot of white cultures come into like the rap hip hop industry. Yep. Use that as a way to launch themselves, and then once they have what they have and have gained this popularity among the black community, then they jump over to their side or people who look like them, and then they go from there. So they have the privilege of doing
Justin Timberlake is the number one example. But anyway, I like Justin Timberlake. I like Justin Timberlake, but he's the number one example that I can think of.
About calling out these celebrities' names, because one of these days we're gonna need an endorsement. And they're gonna be like, "No, because you don't call me out on code switching and baby mama."
Love you, Justin, but I'm just saying we got to keep it real. But no, Suge, it's funny, and I knew as soon as Amber said talking black and talking about it, I was like, Suge about to be pissed because you hate that. Me and Suge, our best friend, her name is Ashley too. Shout out, hi Ash. She she typically speaks, like her natural speaking voice is really proper. She's from a smaller city called named Lockport, where we're from. And she just naturally speaks that way. And people always thought she talked so white. And that is how the girl talks. Like, she not code switching. She talk like that. Like, she knows how to speak in a more relaxed way. And you can catch that hood side of her. But when she just talking, like, she gets really proper per se. And it's just like, why are we making it seem like one is better than the other? And like Shug said, now they try to speak like we speak. And they don't even call it Ebonics anymore. It's actually African American Vernacular English. We have a whole term for it now. And people want to speak AAVE, but when we do it, it's a problem. But when we do anything, it's a problem. You got white girls on TikTok learning how to put lotion on for the first time, calling it slugging. And it's just this revelation. We've been wearing lotion.
That's so nasty.
We've been wearing lotion forever. And you got them wearing, like, I saw, they called it, oh my God, they called it something else, but it was a do-rag. She had on a do-rag and she was tying it up in all little fancy ways. And I'm like, why is it now fashionable? But if I walk out my door in a do-rag, it's a problem. So they make things fast. It becomes okay when they do it, but they also know how to switch right back when they need to, like Auntie Keish said.
So I'm almost 100% certain somebody up on here is going to say, well, everybody has to code switch. What's the difference? No. Everybody has to do. So, like, what's y'all's response to that? We already know that's coming. So what's up?
No, everybody doesn't have to code switch. No, everybody doesn't. At the end of the day, especially you went to a PWI, Amber. At the end of the day, those white students that you went to school with, they did not have to really code switch. They were still being who they were, and that was acceptable. You don't have to code switch when who you are is already accepted. Who you are is already acceptable. You only have to code switch when who you are is already deemed as less. We are already deemed as uneducated. We are already deemed as we don't speak properly. We are already deemed as we wear our hair all types of crazy ways. Each one of us right now, before the Crown Act passed, would not have been able to walk into our workplaces with our hair this way. I wouldn't even been able to wear this. I have worked places where they said I couldn't wear my hair wrapped like this if it wasn't for religious reasons. So, no, they don't have to. There's a privilege to that. They don't have to, but most of us, yes, we do. We have to learn how to work and maneuver in those spaces in order to succeed.
You know you're somebody who doesn't have to code switch if you can say, I can't come to work today. I'm sorry. I have, something, my toe hurts. You know what I mean? You know if you don't have to code switch when you can't do that. But I mean, because some of the excuses be asinine.
That is really...
It does bother me because I'm like, at the same time, I don't have that luxury. I got to show up and I got to be all that I can be. And at the same time, not everyone has to do that. And so there's times where my toe hurt, everything in me. I have 5 kids. I don't want to get up this early. I don't want to do this. I got to go and, go and show up for my clients and stuff. And, some people don't have the luxury of saying, I can't do it today, because then you look like the lazy black man who didn't want to go to work anyway. If you do that too much, some people can't even use their FMLA because of stuff like that. Like a Family Medical Leave Act is actually an act where if somebody in your family is sick or you're sick, you actually have the right to take off and take care of yourself. And a lot of people, and a lot of black women, a lot of black men feel like they can't do that because if they don't show up, then their employer is looking at them like, look, there's another lazy black person.
And see that right there bothers me. This idea of us never believing or feeling like we are allowed to rest. Because honestly, for black people, rest is resistance. For us, we have to purposely take our rest. And so the fact that, our white counterparts can say, oh, I was sick this morning, so I'm calling in, or I had a flare up, so I'm calling in. It's like, we should be able to do that too, without a single care about how it's viewed. I work, I do my job, and I also deserve time off. So I'm allowed to rest. I'm allowed to take that time off. But we deal with so many in the workplace and in academia especially, we deal with so many microaggressions, it makes us afraid because we subtly...
What's microaggressions?
So the microaggressions are those statements, actions, or incidents regarded as instances of indirect, subtle, or unintentional discrimination against members of a marginalized group. So basically, it's that subtle thing that somebody might say where you like, was that racist? And you kind of thinking about it. Like, for example, even when I worked in the regular workforce, when I worked, and people would say, "Oh my God, your hair, it's so different today. Did it grow overnight?" If I would put braids in, you know damn well my hair didn't grow overnight. Stop being stupid. Well, that yesterday I was almost flat bald, and I come in here today with braids down my back, and you did it grow overnight? You sound idiotic.
Not slap ball.
Better. You know full well that this is not my hair. You can just say that or ask that question. But that's just like one simple example. But you have others when a black person says, "Oh, you speak so well." Huh?
That
You think I wasn't gonna speak well?
That's what that gets me. Oh
You
my
speak
God.
so well. What made you think I wouldn't speak well? That's a microaggression. That is subliminally saying
that's a micro insult.
It's an insult.
That's a micro insult.
It's an insult.
And another thing too is a mic.
Wait, what about the you real pretty for a black girl?
For a black girl.
Yeah.
Skin girl.
Yeah.
You know? Okay.
That's a micro insult, and another thing is a micro assault. If y'all don't like the way things are, then why don't y'all just go back to Africa? That's a micro assault.
That ain't even a microaggression. That's just
outright ignorant racist. Like micro is subtle. That's really overt right there when they say that.
That's called a micro assault. Assault.
I don't like when
somebody is
whoop your
hitting you.
That's an assault. Like we can take the micro off. you assault.
That's an assault.
There's
You trying to square up at that point. That's all
because that right there.
You want to square up. Can we talk about like touching your hair? Like I get that one because my hair is curly, so people walk up.
Baby.
Can I touch your hair? Is that all your hair? Can I? If you don't
Baby.
get on,
Hey,
get
look,
on.
think you can touch me.
let me tell you, if you get locks, it don't happen no more. They don't want to touch it no more. Go ahead. I ain't had since I locked my hair up, I ain't had nobody try to touch my hair. But
no, because people think locks stink. They be like, no, them things, they
Yeah, I don't want to touch them.
Shug, remember when I tried to lock the boys' hair? I started locks on the boys. I started locks on my boys at one point, but they a little too young and can't do the upkeep, so we decided to wait. But it was a lady, I will never forget, we were in Target, and it was a lady that was like, "Oh, I've never seen a little boy with those." And she reached out. I said, "Ma'am, please don't touch my son." She said, "Oh, I just wanted to." No, you just wanted to. Please don't touch my son.
No.
You let her touch him.
No, I didn't.
You did.
I don't play that. I don't play that. You not about to just touch. First of all, we were still in a pandemic when this happened. Ma'am, I don't know what you got. Don't put your hands over here. But no, like the whole touching, it's like, am I an animal to you? And yes, to some of them we are. We were viewed as animals at one point. So you want to pet me. Like, that's how I feel about that. Can you touch my hair? You're not about to pet me. What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a supervisor who wanted to touch my hair.
That's right.
They try to
a
reach
lot
out.
of things that a lot of our behaviors are just like subconscious. It's like, it's just like natural. It's something that we do. So when they do that, they don't realize like the undertones to that. They don't realize like what you're doing. You're essentially petting me right now. Like, do you not get that? They don't get that. They're just like, "Oh, your hair looks different. That's nice." Like, no, like they don't understand. So that I don't know where I'm going with this, but it just pisses me off that we have to think about this stuff so much, and they just do shit and they don't think about it. Like, they don't understand. There is no question of like, am I doing something that's proper, that's okay or not. They just think they could just do it. Like, no, it's not okay.
It's privilege. It's privilege. To think that you can just touch somebody is so much privilege. It's insane, because no normal human being would think I can just reach out my hand and touch a perfect stranger. You have to have a level of privilege to think that that's even okay.
Yeah.
Well, Diana Ross said, reach out and touch somebody's hand.
Shut up.
Make this world a better place.
Shut up. Shut up. Why?
Unnecessary.
All right, what y'all about to do? Because we about to get into this foil.
for the people who have to code switch, I would, ask yourself, why are you not able to show up authentically yourself? What is holding you back? What are the things that you find to be difficult to deal with in the workplace? And is this workplace for you? Like, sometimes we get ourselves in these situations or get in these jobs and places, and we're not celebrated. So, why are you going somewhere that you're tolerated instead of celebrated? Just because someone says they celebrate diversity, equity, inclusion does not mean that they actually put those things in place. So for me, I would ask an internal question, but if that doesn't work, I will always read books. I got some books that you can read. So I think this is a good one, Right Within, How to Heal from Racial Trauma in the Workplace. I also like this, I'm Still Here, Black Dignity in a World Made Full of Whiteness by Austin Channing Brown. And also find your tribe. Find other Black individuals around you. Ask them how they navigate, wherever area or job you're in. So,
you don't have to,
I don't know, stand strong.
Yeah. You don't have to code switch when you don't have to read them books in order to learn how to function in the workplace. That's how you know you are not somebody who has to code switch.
So I also wanted to throw in, like, Keish was talking earlier about, like, reading books and educating yourself so that you can learn how to not code switch if you don't want to, which I don't think anybody wants to. But I was also going to say, like, a preventative thing too is talking to your kids about it and educating your kids about it. Like, kids are smart. Kids are very smart. They pick up on everything. They pick up on behaviors. They pick up on emotions, and they get anxious. They have feelings too. And I think a lot of the times we look at kids and we're like, they probably don't even care what's going on. Like, they over there watching a tablet. They ain't worried about it. Like, they are in tune with their environment. Kids grow. They are shaped by the environment that they're in. So if they're being placed at a young age and not understanding this, but if they're being placed in certain environments where you take them somewhere and you're like, straighten up, don't talk like that, don't do that, don't act like that. We in the doctor's office. You're going to act like you got some sense. You're going to act like you got some sense. You're going to act white. No, I'm just kidding. But you're going to act like...
We're short in front of these white folks.
Right? And to a certain extent, like, that's okay. Like, yes, you're disciplining your children, but you're also teaching them that they have to be different people in different environments. So having a conversation with them like, hey, when I take you out in public and I'm telling you to behave this way, I'm not saying you have to change who you are. If you still want to hum and sing under your breath, go ahead, girl, because you love music. Do your thing. I'm not trying to, make... So educating your kids about what code switching is so that they know what it is. Mm-hmm. And so that they can grow up. Like, it's just... That's my intergenerational trauma type of thing going on. But it is teaching them that now so that later on they recognize it, they're aware of it, and they can change it. So that's like generations to come. They're teaching their kids that, and their kids are teaching their kids that. And we break that on a macro level. But for right now,
there is a certain way to be professional. We're not just saying, like, because we all know some people are going to take that, I don't got a code switch, and all of a sudden they bring all of the undesirable stuff to the workplace. And we do have some community workers where I'm not buying your product just because you Black, because the shipping was late, this was unprofessional, I didn't like the price, I didn't like this. This is not to say that just because you're Black, like, you just get to act any kind of way, because we don't get to just act any kind of way. But then again, no human beings just get to act any kind of way. And so I think what we're saying is, if you know that you are professional in the way that you are, and the way that you interact with people, then that's enough. And so even if you're not switching your vernacular, even if you, if you like, what up? I had a rep, he came in, he's like, what up? And everybody in the room understood that he was saying, how are y'all? What's up? And so that wasn't unprofessional. He was just talking, but he didn't come in there dapping everybody up, hopping around, acting out of character. He just came in there with his regular self. His authentic presence was enough. And so that's what we're saying is bring your authentic presence. But if your authentic presence is a whole lot and it can't translate to everybody in the room, Black, white, Hispanic, other, whoever, then you probably do need to do some soul searching. So
for me to wrap it up, I kind of align with what you were saying, Auntie Amber. We have to be cognizant of what we show these kids and how we allow them to be who they are in any given space. Like, for example, my daughter right now, she wears her fro proudly anywhere. She does not feel like because she has been in predominantly white schools that she has to straighten her hair or she has to do any of that. So to me, that's her way of, I'm going to show up as me. You're going to see this crown and you're going to be okay with it. And that is kind of what we have to do, because as adults, we are learning how to undo it. We are in the process of learning how to undo it. Like Auntie Keith said, you know, I wasn't always this way, but we get to these positions and now we're able to stop code switching. But for our kids, I think we can start now so that they never have to do it, because it's a difference between code switching and behaving, or code switching and showing up in a space the right way. And I also don't want people to think that they have to fall into respectability politics in order to be accepted. Like, what we deem acceptable and respectable varies. Like, some people would find it super unprofessional for somebody to walk through an airport with their bonnet on. That's respectability politics talking. You can do that and still be professional. Professionalism has been so attached to whiteness that we don't know how to unattach it. So this is why code switching is even a thing. It's so attached to that space of what is white is right that we have to now backtrack. And like Auntie Keith said, it's so many books. I have a good book that Black women in particular can read. It's Hair Story. It speaks to our hair and how that has been an issue in a lot of situations. Also, The Body is Not an Apology. This is more about body positivity and radical self-love, but it has a lot of information about how we show up and why it's not accepted. And then also we have The White Architects of Black Education. This is a really good book to read to learn more about this. And then Racist America. This is also a good book. And all of these books will be on our website or blog for you guys to reference. So that's my way. Roe v. Wade being overturned has been detrimental for a lot of people. Tying that to mental health, it has caused anxiety, panic. Women are like, what do? We don't know if we're going to be able to make this choice for ourselves.
We, as Black women, have stated time and time again about how we need to address these issues before it gets this far, but no one listened, and now we're here.
Like, even back then, and I think that was in the 60s, body autonomy should have been more prevalent. And so now, fast forward to 2022, body autonomy is still prevalent, and we're still being told what to do with our bodies, which negatively affects anybody's mental health.
I just don't understand why it's even at that level where somebody is like putting a law on it. Like, why? Why is that even a thing? Wait, who's snorting? God damn.
Well, I've already started changing the mindset in my household, and I come from a family that's like, I'm not going to counseling because I'm not about to go tell them why.
So the question, I cannot. Somebody else has to start. I can't do this. Yo, come on.
No, I'm ready for real. Go.
Soundstripe.